Hey there guys. Okay, so quite a few people have asked me now about these mods that I've done on this, and which one specifically, which one do I think is the best, and which do I think are worth doing. But this is difficult because I think all these sort of things they're up to you. You know, I would suggest to you that if you've got a Hubsan H501S and you enjoy flying it the way it is, don't change it. Don't change it. I've done my mods because I want to do other things with it. I want to test different antennas. I just want to see what it's like when the internal control, the RX receive module antenna, is on the outside and not on the inside. Now, I don't really expect it to make much difference, but it does look sort of cool. It's like a little gun or something underneath it. But first of all, I'm going to tell you what I think is so far my best mod. And that's going to be the one that I've done over the last couple of days. And I don't know if you can notice, but you see how shiny that board is. And if you compare it just to the top of that chip, it looks dull in comparison. That board's pretty shiny, right? And so is underneath, and so is the camera board. And that's because I've used some of this on it. This is flexible silicone. And what this does is it seals everything from wet. Now, I'm not going to say that this is now waterproof. I have seen videos where a coating like this, the same type of thing, has been used, and I've seen the drone in this sort of state, in the water, with water being poured on top of it from a tap, continuously running tap, and the thing works. That's brilliant. Am I going to do that with this? No. It's too upsetting. It's too upsetting when I have issues with this. So no, I'm not. No, I'm not. But what I do like the idea of is if I'm out now and we start having a bit of a shower on. I live in the UK, and the UK's weather is fickle, to say the least. And so if we have a bit of a shower or a quick 10-minute blast of water comes down and this is out, I'm not going to panic that this is going to get into big problems now. Before, slightest glimpse of rain and that was it. I was packing up. Quick, get in my bag. My bag's water resistant. Get it in my bag and it's all good. But I'm coming home because even if this lands somewhere in long grass, I've got the possibility of water running in and causing problems with the electrics. Now, fresh water isn't as conductive as you may think. It's not as conductive as salt water, but it's still enough to cause problems, and if water's left on the board, it can cause corrosion, and that itself brings in its own set of problems. So what I've done is I've gone across the entire board, I've gone across the ESCs, I've gone across everything. It's taken a couple of days to do it because this stuff is highly the fumes that come off it really do fill up the space. I mean, really, you need some good extractor system. Now I've got a carbon filter extractor system, but I didn't even bother setting up. I normally set it up when I do soldering, if it's going to be more than just one or two joints, but I didn't bother setting up for this because I really didn't know. And when I first started putting it on, I couldn't smell it. But it was when I'd finished doing it, I really thought, no, there's absolutely too much. And I wish I'd have done more ventilation. I wish I'd used the extractor. I found that this morning when I went to put on the rest of like the undersides, because I could only get to one side properly yesterday, was I actually put it outside, outside my front door, and then I've got another big space there, and then I've got another main front door there, and I put it there and left my main back door open to keep the air ventilating around. I've done the controller as well. I've done the inside of the controller. Been over the switches, but all the switches work, everything works. That's back together. That's sat over there. Now, that because of the practicality of it. putting the resistance, the water resistant. They say it's waterproofing. I'm going to say water resistant because I think proof and resistance, you can have a high resistance. Proofing is being absolutely sure of yourself. I'm not too sure about that. So water resistant. Now the next best mod I think on this is the camera. Absolutely. Because adjusting that camera, I have a different quad. I'm refusing to call them drones anymore because of the negative connotations that come with drones. Drones are used by the military, drones are used to kill people. I've got a quadcopter, a multi-rotor if you like. It's not a killing device. It's a fun device. According to a lot of places that you may buy them from, it's a toy. And toys don't normally, and shouldn't really, kill. But there you go. But, so on my quadcopter, I have the camera angle changed, and for me that's fantastic. It means I get to fly the way I like to fly, and I'm not just continuously looking down at the ground at that angle. And then every time I pitch forward, of course I've just got a face full of grass. And I've had people comment on my videos saying, oh, you know, it would have been better if you'd have been at this height or something, because then you wouldn't have, it wouldn't have just been all grass. And they're absolutely right. But to be honest with you, you know, if I could have a suggestion box at Hubsan, I'd say, hey, can't you have it so we can adjust this camera ourselves? So there can be some sort of way of, you know, adjusting it on the side screws or something, so you can just adjust that camera as you want it. Next best mod, of course, is going to be the antenna. The FPV antenna on the back. Now, this was simple enough to do. This is the only problem, or the only thing that doesn't make this simple, is drilling a hole through there with a 7mm screw drill bit is simple enough to put the pigtail in. But the hardest part, of course, is just the faffing about to get to that camera board, because you've got to release everything, because you need to get access to the underneath of the camera board. So if I can get this out of the way, which is a little bit of gymnastics with it all, and that's what you've got to be able to do. You see, if I pull that out there, and that's the sort of access you want to it. See how this is all coated as well. But you've got to be able to get here to put the connection, this pigtail connection, whatever it is you call these things, this IPEX, and connect it there. That's the hardest part about doing that. And of course, to do that as well, really, you have to take your camera out, because again, getting underneath there with the camera mounted in place is difficult. And in order to get your camera out, to get it out easily, what you need to have is something like a soldering iron. Use a tip that maybe you don't want to use again. I used an old tip. It was like just a bag of tips that came with a different soldering iron, and I used a tip that I wouldn't normally use, like just a big tip, put it on nice and hot, and it went through it. If I'd have had it on hotter, it would have gone through it easier. And then I just had to chip out the last bits, you know, get rid of the last bits. But you got to be very careful, because I think this lens is focused and then it's glued or something. You don't want to unfocus it. Mine, I'm lucky because mine's well focused, and so you got to be very careful with that. And then just hot glue it back in when you put it in. Hot glue's easier. It's difficult to get out, but it's easier to get out than this yellow stuff. But Hubsan were doing this as a permanent fitting pretty much, and probably didn't expect people to be going in there fiddling about too much. Little did they know about us people. So yeah, that being able to try different antennas on the back is brilliant. I mean, I'm not a great adapter fan, but I've gone and got an adapter, double female adapter, for that little receiver that I've got, because now I'll be able to put different antennas on the receiver. I'll be able to put, you know, the same antenna on the receiver as what I have on the quad if I put pagodas on there, let's say, because I can still use a flat panel on my receiver. It's not going to be a problem. And of course, because I've got a new upgrade to this, to my quads that I have, and because I'm building my own quad as well. I've got an upgrade to it. I've got a new controller, and I've got I've modded that, and also got another mod that it will go across lots of different frequencies, and so I'll be able to use this from my new controller as well. I'll be able to use my X-Cymer on my new controller. I'll be able to use my quad that I'm building on my new controller. I'm just waiting for those parts to come in. And I've got to just plan how I'm going to do that. So yeah. And then of course there's only one other thing that I've done to this, and that's I've just put the internal antenna on the outside. Now all I'm doing there really is just saving one skin of plastic between what it was and just moving it very slightly further away from the camera board. How much difference will that actually make? Negligible, I'm sure. I'm sure that there's not going to be anything particularly that greatly calculable that I could do, you know, with flight tests. I don't think there's anything I can actually really show you with this. I've sort of made sure I've twisted up my wires a little bit. I think that helps. One, it helps them when you're stacking them in there to keep them out of the way. Although I'm getting slightly high off this, I think it still takes quite a bit of time to. It takes a bit of time to. I can feel my head becoming slightly. Just, I feel like it's affecting me. Somebody asked me about the barometer. This is a flight controller for the Hubsan H501S, and the barometer is underneath this can, and I can pull this up. It's going to be sat underneath here. Oh, there we go. There's the barometer. Let me zoom in for you. So that little can there with the little two holes, one be your top left and bottom right, that's your barometer. Now if air was to blow across that, it would sense the change in pressure and try to adjust the height accordingly. Let's zoom out again. That's why it has that bit of sponge. And then that's also, well, it's not the reason why it's canned, but that can is there to help a bit. But as you can see, there's a gap between there and there that air could get through, and also from there to there. And that's why the piece of sponge is there. But you need some RF shielding here, but you don't want to enclose it all too much. Apparently, as far as I understand, there's just a diode on here that's dead, and if I were to change that diode, I'd have a spare flight controller. And the reason why this sponge is underneath here is to try and absorb some vibration, because you don't want your flight controller feeling on the vibration, because it will interpret that as movement and trying to adjust for it. So, that's it. That's all I've done on mine. I've taken this apart so many times now. It's unbelievable. I don't know what the power of these ESCs are. I presume there's something like 10, 12 amps, but I wouldn't be 100% sure. I can tell you this now, that you're going to put more stress on your ESCs and your motors if you put bigger propellers on. So if you go over the 7-inch propellers, you're actually putting more stress on your motors and your ESCs. And you don't really want to be going up in C ratings on your batteries if you're doing that either. In actual fact, you probably want to go down. Just things that I'm learning along the way while I'm learning how to build my own drone. It's an eye-opener for a lot of things. Pretty time consuming, but I've really been enjoying what I've been learning, so what's applicable to this I'll pass along as well. There you go. I don't know if that's of any interest to anybody. That's helped you out with a decision, and maybe to do the mods or not to do any mods, I would certainly say that the camera mod in the front of the drone, depending on how you like to fly. I mean, I can still tilt mine up a slight bit more with the way I have it, and that would just be a case of me locking it pretty much down into place and just nudging it slightly, and it'll just shift up a little notch, and then I can just tighten that where it is. But I think I'm just happy with it where it is for the moment, and that's all I'm going to do with this one. Pretty much the rest of it I'll do on the one that I'm going to build. That's what this straw's for. It's for the new one. At least I need two of these straws. Got it from a pub the other day. That's to put my wire antennas into, so they stay out the way of the props. There we go. If you got this far and it was helpful, cheers for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.